Hello there, so in this video I'm going to talk about my experiences of updating to the new M1 MacBook Air from 2015 MacBook Pro. What it's like, what are the main differences and how do I find it so far. What you need to know about me is I'm into filmmaking, so I do a lot of editing and I'm using Final Cut Pro. So I had my old MacBook Pro, this one here, for over 6 years. I loved it, I never had no problems with it, but it was time to upgrade. So my old MacBook Pro was kind of struggling with editing videos, or never mind editing, I couldn't even play them. So when I get my footage out of my Fujifilm camera or even GoPros, I couldn't edit the files, I couldn't even watch them, so I had to rewrite every single time, and it took me a long time to kind of process, and the files kind of became bigger. So here I am, having a good camera. I'm kind of defaulted back to record everything in 1080p because 4K footage was unusable in my old MacBook, but I hold out the good reports about the M1 MacBook Air. In fact, it's supposed to be exactly the same thing as the MacBook Pro, except a couple of ports different. Generally, it's the same brain inside the computer. I wanted something that can handle the footage straight out of the camera, and I have to say I'm not disappointed in the MacBook Air. So let's start with the looks. The MacBook Air looks very similar to the old MacBook Pro. It's a little bit thinner, it's a bit lighter too, but otherwise it's nearly identical, and there's only a few differences. It has less connection ports, 2 Thunderbolts, it's a USB-C on the left and then 1 headphone jack on the right. There's no card reader. In my old MacBook Pro there was a card reader which I liked, and I have to say it's a little bit faster than buying a third-party reader like a station dock and use it on my MacBook Air. But the difference is not that much, so it doesn't bother me. I paid £20 for this dock, which is 7-in-1. There's HDMI, micro SD card, there's SD card reader, and a couple of USB, 3 or 4 USBs as well on it. It's pretty good. It roughly takes about 3 to 4 minutes to transfer 5 gig of data, so that's not too bad at all. But my old MacBook Pro's built-in card reader was a little bit faster, just a little bit. So that's pretty much the only thing I can kind of complain about. There's a new button layout on the top. Rather than having brightness changing buttons for the keyboard, you have the Do Not Disturb button, Spotlight Search, and Voice to Text button. I'm just trying out the Voice to Text right now. It's pretty good. I love this feature, man. It can't even make a mistake. It's the best. Jeez. It's definitely gonna speed up my process of writing, because you don't write, you just talk to it and it writes for you, and it's very quick to go through it and kind of correct it for yourself. Finding this process very, very handy. The brightness changing button moved to the top of the right screen, and the other update on the keyboard is the Touch ID sensor. It's like a fingerprint reader, and again it's pretty quick. It kind of speeds up the process of getting into your laptop. I enjoy that. Now let's talk about what it's like to use the MacBook Air for video editing and browsing and watching YouTube in the same time even. So first, to charge the MacBook Air, you're able to use your mobile phone's USB-C charger, which is amazing in my opinion, because if anything goes wrong with the Apple charger, then you don't have to fork out a lot of money to get a new charger. Normal USB-C charger will charge your MacBook Air via the Thunderbolt port. The normal fast chargers charge it slowly, and the super fast chargers you get with the newer Samsung phones will charge your MacBook just as fast as the original Apple charger. It charges about 35% in 45 minutes, less than 1% charge in 1 minute. The battery is supposed to last 18 hours on one charge. If you use the laptop for browsing or watching Netflix or reading or writing, then it's probably going to last that 18 hours. If you get into heavy editing, then from like 100% drains down to like 20% within 5-6 hours most. But that's okay, that's kind of expected. It's pretty good, and it was the same with the old MacBook as well. When you edit videos, then battery just drains really, really quick. And I have a tip for you here. If you want to get the most life expectancy out of your battery, then you always keep the charge in between 20 and 80%. And one thing you never want to do is you don't use your laptop while you're charging it in the same time, and this goes for your mobile phones and all your other devices as well. When you're charging, just only charge and then stick between 20 and 80%. Don't go below 20 and don't go over 80%. This is scientifically proven that way your battery is going to last the longest. That's just a handy tip for you. So let's move on to the most important thing here, is the performance. The MacBook Air is insanely fast. I can put files directly onto the computer from my GoPro or from my Fuji X-T4. 10-bit files, 4K, 60 frames per second, and you edit them no problem whatsoever. Never ever slows down. You can put transitions and effects into the timeline, and there's nothing ever going to slow down. I love that. This is unbelievable. And this MacBook Air is only a basic model, the 8 gig model, which is mind-blowing to me. I'm so impressed, I could not believe it. So now with this new MacBook Air, I can put log files directly into my editing program, Final Cut Pro, which is optimized for M1, and I can color grade them, I can edit them, I can give any transition or anything into the clip and without missing a beat, you can just watch it back straight away. This will speed up my workflow so much. I love it. It makes the whole work a lot more enjoyable rather than waiting and rendering the files. You just stick it in and you cut it up and you do whatever you want, and there's no slowing down. For that price, I mean, I got the MacBook Air on a good deal for £700. You just cannot beat that. Even if you get the new MacBook Pro, you're probably expecting to pay, if you upgrade the hardware, a couple of £1,000. I save a fortune. It doesn't make any sound. It doesn't overheat. It's not like the MacBook Pro, which sounds like an air conditioning. Honestly, when you're editing for a couple of hours, it's gonna get really, really hot. And the MacBook Air, I never had that issue. It never gets warm. Silent and cold the whole way through. It gets maybe a little bit warmer, but nothing major. So what's not to love about it? So if you're considering getting the new MacBook Air or MacBook Pro with an M1 or M1X chip, or we're expecting to come out later this year, you definitely should consider getting MacBook Air for less than the MacBook Pro, and definitely a lot less cheaper than the new MacBook Pros or MacBook Air. So even if you're heavy into editing, you're not going to be disappointed, I have to say. You should consider spending half the money getting a really good deal with the MacBook Air. I'm very impressed with it. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you get anything useful out of it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you like what you see here, then consider subscribing maybe. I'd really appreciate that, and see you in the next one. Peace.